Have you ever worked for someone and then you don't feel satisfied?
Of course.
Exactly. If I sell you something that I know that I just pushed you to buy it because I want to put something in my pocket, it doesn't give me any satisfaction whatsoever. So it has to be, what does this person want? And I'll tailor it and package it for you.
He's an award-winning photographer, creative entrepreneur, CEO, George Okoro Media Group. He has photographed prominent figures, including royalty and political figures. George Okoro.
So Bisonto is one of the biggest influence in my photography because I just enjoy taking pictures. In fact, I enjoy the concept of owning a camera. Nigeria is a developing country. Even up to today, photographers don't even get the respect that they truly deserve. Few photographers can boast of having that respect.
How do you measure success in your business?
If you want to continue building in this industry as a photographer or as a creative in general, you must start thinking about
Hi, good George.
hello,
How are you doing today?
I'm blessed.
Oh, George, I'm actually really excited you're sitting here with me today because for as long as I've picked up a camera, you're always in an excursion. I'm not going to do this photography for a very long time.
It happened?
Yeah, maybe at most 5 years. Okay, 6 years.
6 years is a lot of time.
Is it?
Of course. 6 years. How many years have I been doing to?
I think maybe over a decade.
Yeah, definitely over a decade.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a decade and 6 years?
Is a lot. That's a whole degree in university. It's a lot. So guys, I'm actually I feel really honored to be sitting here today. But I always like to start with figuring out the background, like the story of how you go into photography, because like everybody that knows me know that photography has never been like a passion project for me. I very
used to that.
yes, I just really got into it.
Mhm.
But I think I came across an article that you I don't know which 2022. I'm not sure. I can't remember when released it. And you were talking about how you always appreciated photography for riches as but even at the time you didn't think that is a thing that you would kind of build a career around. And so at the time that you started your career in banking sector. So I want to understand like the transition from there into photography, like how did that happen?
Okay, so first of all, I'm very ambitious, right? And photography for me is more about, I just enjoy taking pictures. In fact, I enjoy the concept of owning a camera. Because growing up back then in the East, I grew up in the East. When during the festive period, when our cousins come back from the United States or the UK, they carry behind their point and shoot camera on the neck. I thought it was cool. I wanted to be cool. So I said, me to unlock my own camera. I want to be cool. And my own bought me my own first Canon, something point and shoot camera. So I just go about with that camera, taking pictures. And I enjoy doing it. From there, my mom got me another camera. Even I bought the solar cameras with the film. So every time I take pictures, I go to the lab, print the pictures, see what it looks like. So I had a collection of pictures that I've been taking over the years. Even down to when I entered university, when I'm late for class, we stay at the back of the classroom and I'm just taking pictures. I'm not interested in what's going on in class. I'm more interested in taking pictures of people that are outside. So transition to when I moved to Abuja after my NYC. Of course, like you mentioned, I started my career after NYC in banking sector. From there, moved to telecom. And throughout that period, too, I was still taking pictures at social events, social gatherings. If you invite me for an event, I have my camera and go there and just take pictures. Then after taking the pictures, people are reaching out, send me the picture, send it. I'm like, it's send picture. What? So this picture is important to these people. Then at some point in my career when I was working in telecom, I was tired of working because I wanted to. So I did the maths. I'm like, when am I going to become the guy in this?
This place.
How long is it going to take me? I said, nah, I do 20 years. So what else can I do that I enjoy to do that I can put food on the table? That's when, anytime I think about that, my mind goes back to taking pictures. Not photography per se. Why did I know photography? Professional photography. For me, is that taking pictures. You like to take pictures, and there's demand. After taking the picture, people are asking for it. So that means you can exchange value.
for this.
Then, luckily, one of my closest friends in university, his younger brother was already doing, he was doing amazing as a professional photographer, and that's none other than Obi Somto. So Obi Somto is one of the biggest influence in my photography because I met this other brother, like I said, my closest friend, and through him I was so to what's this thing that I always, he sees it on his laptop. As at then, Somto was already photographing the biggest celebrities, he was photographing Don Jazzy, and so this guy is earning a living from doing this thing. So he's actually the first person, professional photographer, that I called and said, I want to quit my job and do this wedding.
What a blessing to have that.
Of course.
Because even up until 2017, I didn't actually know that people would do great things with photography.
Okay.
I think it was at the time that actually photographer got curious and I ran into a camera. Kind of has that room in their house that they dump things like in storage. So my mom asked me to do the storage, and I just found this bag and there's a camera inside it. And at that time I didn't even understand because I can't remember. I know I see all the wait and take people on their phone, but subconsciously I've never noted camera, this is what you should do, and stuff like that. I just know camera as the phone device, the one I use and stuff. So when we opened it, yes.
We didn't know cameras on the phone.
So at 2017 now we have iPhones and all that. So that's when you say camera in my head, that's where my first thing will go to. So I opened the bag and I saw the camera and I didn't even know how to turn it on. So curiosity led me to now figure out, how can I use this thing? That's when, and I got social media to see that, oh my God, this thing is a really creative stuff. So I feel like it's actually a really huge lesson that you had someone that around you that you could see and be like, oh, this thing, you can actually make money out of it. So
there was no social media.
Yes.
For photography.
Yes. I think that's interesting. So talk to me about the actual transition in furlough. Because it's one thing to say, oh, you were working here and then you saw that people can make money, but there's some sort of bravery that you have to quit your job and decide that you have to do this thing. So talk to me about transitioning into photography, even the buying the gears and everything, because it's not just about waking up and saying, oh, I want to now do photography.
So a lot happened during that period, a whole lot. So back then I was working as a salesperson for NTN, to the case size, and a lot of people considered it as a great job, which it was. So whenever I go out to do my sales, we had a unit that was in charge of selling data calls. So a lot of our clients were in Banex, as we know it today. So we go to Banex a lot. And one of my customers in Banex had a shelf where they display cameras. So every time I go there, there's this, the first camera I bought with my money is the crop sensor Nikon D5100. So every time I walk into that store, I'll tell him that Chikeze, I will come and buy one of these cameras. So I was saving up my salary to buy the camera, and he did everything. He'd be like, you sure? I said, don't worry, one day. Every time I walk, I say, I will come and buy, until I was able to save up money and buy my first, it's not exactly a professional camera, but my first thing that looked like a professional camera that I can attach a lens to. So transitioning, first of all, I didn't have any, how would I put it now, training per se when I started. It was all hit and miss, shoot and, all guesswork. But when I knew that I wanted to quit my job and do this, first of all, everybody was against that decision. Like, why do you want to quit your job and become a cameraman? In today's, Nigeria is a developing country. Even up to today, photographers don't even get the respect that they truly deserve. Up to today, not few photographers can boast of having that respect. It wasn't exactly an easy decision because a lot of people said, why don't you do it side by side with your job.
Yeah.
So you can do your 9 to 5. They were scared for me, right? So you do your 9 to 5, then at the weekends you can do photography as a side gig. But I knew where I wanted to take it to. And I said to them that where I want to take this into, I cannot do it with any other job. I have to face it full time. And I'd rather go in and do it and then fail. I know that I failed on my own terms than trying to, listen to everybody. And at the end of the day, I regret my life.
Even like, what if?
Yeah, what if I didn't do that? So I went head on and said, no, I will quit my job and face this thing. It wasn't an easy decision, but it's still the best decision that I've ever made.
Yes, I think because why I asked is that you get a lot of people say, oh, I want to get into photography. Say, for example, I'm a front desk in the hotel or something. I'm trying to get into photography, but I'm afraid because obviously you still have to maintain your everyday living. Bills are still there from what you pay and stuff like that. So they ask me, sometimes I'm afraid to say, oh, you can do this. Because I know I'm going to come back and feel like, but I just said, do you get? But
Yeah.
I am now understanding that a lot of your life decision has to do with mindset.
Yes, a lot has to do with myself, but whatever risk you have to take, you have to calculate it.
Calculate.
So I didn't wake up and say, oh, no, I'm quitting the job.
Yeah.
I was still doing my job
Yeah.
while I was exploring what photography could do.
So you.
I live sometimes as a salesperson, you can come to work when you go and work in the field. So while instead of working in the field, this is when I knew that it was time for me to give up my job. Because sometimes I can come to work, drop my things on my desk in the morning on a flight to Lagos to work, then come back the same day and come back to the office late in the evening, like, oh, if I just finished working in the field. But instead, the what I was trying to do with photography was taking up a lot of my time.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, weekends, I go out and try to see if I could connect with people, take pictures. But it was really difficult because nobody even wanted to pay for a service. In fact, you take pictures, people come to you and say, delete those pictures from your phone. So it wasn't a time for you to wake up and say, well, I'm going to quit my job.
It's not as glamorous as it is,
I don't
now.
know what that was. It was still calculated up until when I got my first wedding gig.
Okay.
So I was doing a lot of free photography. Nobody was paying. Even when you ask them to pay as low as 5,000, it came with a lot of arguments, But I had to do something, which I explained just recently in a video that I posted. Back then, people celebrate birthdays a lot of today. Now, BlackBerry was what was in vogue then. Everybody was using BlackBerry phones, and people expected you to wish them a happy birthday. So I just looked at it and said, okay, Bella Nigeria was big doing weddings. I cannot start with doing weddings. Why don't I start with something that people really liked, which was birthdays? I said, okay, if I go about taking people's birthday pictures, and I created a blog where I'll be celebrating just people's birthdays. So I come take free birthday pictures, do a story about you, ask your friends about you. Your friends will all say nice stuff. So I come back to my rooms, where I was staying back there, and write your story, blog about your birthday, and then send you the link to that article I did about you. So the extra thing that I did was I was just go about commenting, writing sweet stuff about you in the comment section on the website.
Yes.
By the way, I built that website myself. So after writing like 20, 30 comments, I send it to you. So when you read all that beautiful story, see the beautiful pictures, the next thing they always do was to broadcast it. So BlackBerry, then the way you do broadcast on WhatsApp, now you send it to everybody. So now I now start getting people reach out to me to say, oh, I saw what you did for IJ. Can you come and do it for my birthday? How much will you charge? So I said, any small. From there, every day after work, I'm covering one birthday in one restaurant or in one bar and one. So I started getting gigs. People started paying me. Then I met a school friend where I went to my former classmate in school, where I went to cover a birthday. And he told me that he was getting married in Kaduna and that he wanted me to cover his wedding. I'm like, I've never done a wedding before. I said, no, don't worry, you can do it. That's how I packed my bags, I called one of my other friends who also were in school together. I said, we're going to cover our kid's wedding in Kaduna. He said that he would like to go with me. So I gave him my second camera. I took by then I bought a Nikon D800. So I gave him the second camera. I said, let's go to Kaduna. We went to Kaduna and with zero clue of what it takes to shoot a wedding. We were just pressing the camera up and down everywhere. Now if you want to shoot a wedding, you know how to document the wedding properly. So we're just taking random pictures. Came back home after taking the pictures, put it on the app, did some editing. And it was time to send the pictures to him. I was asking myself, but I usually see people put their logo and stuff on their pictures. So all this thing was happening as a rookie. You don't know what you're doing.
Figure it out.
I see people are writing names on their pictures. So what name will I write on my own picture before I send it to them? That's how the putting George Okoro on my pictures came about. I said, I have to use my name. It has to be George Okoro because I want to build something that will leave me. I want this name to be there when I'm gone. So I put George Okoro on it and sent it out. Mind you, when I was going to shoot that wedding, the excitement of going to shoot the wedding was more important than any Nigerian couple. So we didn't discuss money. It was after I handed in the CD,
CD?
Yeah, they burnt it in the CD there. Yeah, exactly. So when I handed him the CD, that's when he looked and said, that he wanted to say thank you. Opened his glove compartment and brought out cash in there. And that cash was close to my whole monthly salary. If I can end this on a weekend, going to have a good time in Kaduna, because to me, I was having a good time, shooting the pictures. That means if I dedicate more of my time doing this, it would work. So that's how
That's amazing. That is amazing. So I want to know how has working in corporate world influenced how you do your business today?
Yeah. So big influence. I would not be. So my mindset as a photographer. So generally, as someone who is in the media business now, it's really from all the training I had. I've worked as a salesperson all my career. So even when I was in the banking, it was selling. I was doing people opening account. They call it marketers.
Marketers,
Where I was in marketing as a banker. Down to when I was in ATM, I was in sales and distribution department. So all I was doing was selling. So when I picked up this my camera for a living, it was easier for me to sell as I understood how to get people to want to buy what you have to offer. So my training as a salesperson has a huge impact in whatever I'm doing in photography.
What you said, people was a crazy. I think there's
It was structuring, because that's one thing that's really lacking in our industry is structuring, dedication, people understanding that you actually need a team. Everything functions as a team. So I give it to my training as a salesperson.
That's such a huge advantage because there's so much aperture and shutter speed can take you to.
And that is where too much of the focus is. It is understandable. But you cannot build anything if you don't understand, what it takes to actually build something sustainable. And the industry is truly lacking that. Some people are passionate about,
Me inclusive.
So once you get into it, you just get carried away and you're not even thinking about how do I put one and two together to continue to grow this thing.
Yeah.
So I think I'm lucky to have that.
You are, because now that I'm trying to build a brand for myself, I am now realizing that this is not a walk in the park.
Yeah, no.
It's not a walk in the park. Starting from delegating to even discipline myself as a person to even do the things I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do them.
Yeah.
I'm also not going to put my hand in the finance where I'm not supposed to put my hand. Like, I'm now learning that you don't just wake up and just buy anything you want.
So you never had 9 to 5?
I did, but it was an engineering background.
Oh.
It wasn't, I was like in the field engineering. All I have to do is go to a client site, repair. I studied medical engineering.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so repair equipment and then come back. I have no business with the money guys and stuff like that. So now I am now doing my own thing. I am now realizing that, you don't just wake up and buy an equipment. You don't just wake up and buy a hair for yourself as a business person.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just have to now, I'm now learning to plan for each thing I want to buy, budget it, even explain the time value of the money that I'm using to buy it.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that it's a lot. It's a lot to do this. And because you see all your Uncle BH, Uncle Kelechi, everybody is making businesses. And you just think that you just to carry your camera and just do it. It's not like that. So I'm not realizing that this thing is not just about there's photography and there's business. And I'm not realizing that whatever you're doing, business is business. So that's the point of this whole thing, because like at least to some extent, the technical aspect of it, I can wake up and do. From business, but I have to learn. I'm not realizing I have to learn. And it's not even just about watching YouTube. I've talked to people that are in industry that have done these years before me and just before them. And I'm a big fan of I don't have to make my own mistake. I really want to learn from you. So I'm a big fan of that. So and that's the point. So I'm just realizing that this is such an advantage. And also it's also a thing where, you know, in the world that we're today, it's quite unfortunate the way education is viewed in this country. So a lot of people are not keen on doing the education part of things, and then you see how you did the first degree, and then I went into the banking sector, and then the sales and the experience you got from that. Now you are applying it in your own business. But a lot of people just want to graduate, get into the industry. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but I feel like there is so much you can get. Just mostly if you have the vision of building a business for yourself from actually working in the corporate world first before you get into the creative industry. I'm not saying that you cannot make it, but I'm just saying that there's an advantage, like you mentioned, that brings to you, like having like the experience from the corporate world, even though even the engineering part that I didn't have to do with the money guys and all that and the sales and everything, but at least I learned the culture of working in the corporate place, or like having to well, I call it etiquette of working.
So without minusing words, because I understand where you cannot make it.
Yeah.
If you don't work in a corporate world, or if you don't go to a business school, but you cannot make it if you lack discipline.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
You can't make it. You can only make it to a certain level if you lack structure.
True.
You understand? It's just saying that if you have the talent, a lot of people have the talent, and I've seen talent come and go and just completely wasted because they lack discipline. You know, photography requires a lot of discipline. Even if you're running it as a one-man show, you know the level of discipline it takes to someone pays you, you commit to it. There is a date. Then maybe on that date, before the day of the gig that you were booked for, you probably squandered the pay, and somebody else is trying to pay you for the same date. Do you know some people take the double book the dates, and then they try to make the two events happen on their own, and then they destroy people's events or whatever it is. So there are people who lack discipline, and it has ruined their career. So there is no way you can make it without discipline. So having the opportunity to go through a structured environment is a huge advantage. But if you don't have that opportunity, it's something that you should say to yourself that I have to find a way to, if I know I lack in this thing, I need to go and learn it if I want to truly make it, to be honest. Yeah.
And then another question I want to ask is that many photographers have this illusion, or fall into this illusion, that their work is for everyone. Everybody must like their pictures or their art or whatever. So I'm now thinking, at the time that you started George Okoro Studios, now I was supposed, I believe that you had your own brand on your own. Then you started George Okoro Studios. Did you have a clarity of who you are selling? How did you decide who George Okoro Studios is for?
Again, it still goes back to my whole business truly. I knew that at some point, you know, from the beginning, I said I wanted to build something that I can leave behind. I'm not going to be here forever. Yeah. But in the process, it was all me. It's George Okoro. George Okoro is taking out pictures. George Okoro is everywhere, running up and down. And there was, you know, when I started my career and when it was really, you know, when it was hot, there's a lot of demand for George Okoro. But George Okoro is one person, can't be called by a place. So I knew that I had to build a team of people that can go and represent George Okoro even when he's not there. So I wanted to do something that's scalable, that's the word. because it has to function even when I'm not around. So, and I also try to separate it from George Okoro as an individual. So George Okoro Studios was born out of the fact that there was a lot of demand for George Okoro to be everywhere. But also, there was also a pricing factor. Some people wanted George Okoro, but they could not afford to have George Okoro personally. So the suggestion, yeah, why don't you have a team? Can't you send your boys? You know, that come, send your guys to come and cover it. I'm like, send your guys, I don't even have any guy. You know, but send your guys in there and okay, you can actually build a team and then send a team. So I now decided that, okay, it was time for me to. Joro Okoro Studios launched just yesterday, 2019. That's when it was incorporated as a business, Joro Okoro Studio. It's not too far. You know, that's why we opened our first studio on Ademalade Tokumbo for the second one, Ademalade Tokumbo. Then we grew from there. So, and it was clear that the Okoro Studios will be able to serve a wider audience. With Joro Okoro Studios, we'll be able to have a team of professional photographers and videographers or creatives in general, and we can send out to represent the brand and and charge less. But if you want Joro Okoro himself, then that's a different conversation we'd had. So that's
So what I'm understanding is you don't just do things, you pay attention, and there has to be a demand for it first.
yes.
Because a lot of us have this culture of ownership. You just want to own your own and so forth.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are asking for what you want to do. Like for example, now let's say, oh, I want to now open a working studio. Nobody's asking me, oh, your team, your anything. You just wake up and open it.
Yeah.
Or for you,
Yeah.
the demand has to be there first, and then you service the demand. Just like you said that when you picked up your camera and you're just taking pictures of people, and people are always asking you for pictures, you realize that there's a demand and there's still, and I can make value for the demand. So I think that's what I'm understanding. Don't just wake up and then you just open studio.
So it's a case of there's a need. I'm filling that gap. There's a problem. You need to solve it. So that's how I think.
You think about your business.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I like that. So another thing is I'm far fascinated about your ability to collaborate with brands that is not even photography.
Yeah.
Now it's different if you're collaborating with another photographer or you're collaborating with another even videographer or basically someone in the creative industry. But I've just seen you collaborate with, say for example, I believe Bafi. And I believe you had a collaboration with Samsung Nigeria. And I was like, how do you bring this world and this world together? And how have you positioned your brand for all these other brands that are not even in your industry to work with you?
Okay, so I've tried as much as possible not to limit my brand to photography. So it's intentional. I attract some of these brands that come to me. It's really about understanding the value and when they see the value you bring to the table. What's your, if you use social media for an example, who are your audience? Who are the people looking at what you're doing, listening to what you're doing, and how can that be of value to these brands? So if I have an audience that Bafi wants to engage with, why am I just feeding them photography when I can also feed them Bafi? And if Bafi sees value in the Okoro, through the Okoro I can connect with this, this client, then definitely not connect. So I've done things beyond, like you mentioned, Samsung or Bafi. I've done things even with some, liquor brands, alcohol beverages. I've done things with so many fashion, and yeah, is something that I am very intentional about. Again, because if you have built something that is influential, not just necessarily popular, there's a huge difference between being popular and being influential.
Talk to me about
that. Okay. If you're having a conversation, let's say about photography in a room, for me, what's most important to me is that my name comes up in that conversation. You don't have to book me. Not everybody will book you. Not everybody will like your sign of work. But it's important to me that the name is part of that conversation. And then in your industry, if there are important decisions that they're trying to make in your industry, they should be looking to hear your opinion. So that makes you influential. So if everything is just flying over your head and people are just doing stuff and you're just seeing things happening and you're not part of anything that's happening, even though people know you, that means you're just a popular guy. But you have zero influence. You're not even influencing the people in your industry. So you have to be. So that's you have to be part of the conversation. Conversations are coming up in any room that has to do with your field. Your name needs to come up, whether it's in the best way. Let your name be on that list, and let somebody say, "Oh no," but let it be on that list. Yeah.
That's another way to look at it.
Yeah.
Because you always want to have the positive end of it, like, oh,
No,
my name is going to be there. Let's otherwise don't call my name.
No,
Call my name.
it doesn't have to be because it will not always be positive.
Yeah.
Because you cannot please everybody.
You cannot
But
please
let the name be in the room. Because if it's not even mentioned in the room, how is it going to be positive?
Exactly.
You understand? How will you end up being selected if it's not mentioned in the room? So that visibility is very key.
The fact that your name is even mentioned on the something.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. For me, that's it. You just mention my name first, then we'll take it from there. And if there's something that is, so if there's something that is making them say the negative stuff when your name comes back, so that's where you get feedback from. That's where you learn from, and then improve on what that thing is. Yeah.
So what would you say drives your approach to collaboration? Do you see a brand comes to you, oh, I want to work with George Okoro. What about that brand? I assume you don't just wake up and work with anything.
Of course.
Yeah. So what about the brand do you look out for? And what would you say is a successful collaboration for you?
Okay, so there's this stage you get to, what they say, iron sharpens
Iron. Yes.
Yeah. So if you bring iron and wood together, somebody's gonna die. So I look out for what kind of value are we going to exchange? And am I truly the right person? Do I fit into this brand? There are brands that I used to work with before. At some point, I felt like, it's time for me to end my relationship with this brand. Either because I've outgrown it or I realized that we're not actually aligning. It's not in the same direction where I want to go. This is not where I want to fit my pockets. So I look at it holistically and ask myself, first of all, do I have what they're looking for? If they work with me, are they going to get value for their money? Because it's not about taking their money. And how is this going to project my brand? Because you have to be intentional about how is this going to make my brand look. Some collaborations, you don't even exchange money in terms of value. But if this is going to help build the perception for the brand that I'm trying to build, you can go ahead and do that collaboration. So those are the things that I look out for.
Okay. And then say someone, for example, now, say, what would I say now? Maybe I'm a publisher and I have I want George Okoro to write a book and I want to collaborate with George Okoro on that. How do I approach you to, what am I looking out for?
I'm trying to get the question correct.
So,
yeah.
Okay.
Do you have a publishing deal you want to do?
No. I don't have a publishing deal, but I'm just trying to say, if I want to collaborate with Joro on a project, because I'm sure other people too want to collaborate with you, but they don't know how to bridge the gap, how to approach Joro, what are
so there's
looking for the right word.
There's no, let me see if I can answer it. If you want to work with anybody,
yes,
you need to understand what that person needs. Everybody has a need. Everybody has a problem that they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
The Okoro has something that the place that he wants to take his brand to, or something that he's trying to achieve.
Yeah.
If you can understand that and you can help solve that problem, and you approach me, I look at it like I said, it's iron sharpen iron. So if you come to me and what you're telling me is of no value to me, you're just coming to take. There's nothing.
There's no value.
If you come to me and have the right conversation, just the way if you go to any brand and have the right conversations and you're hitting it exactly where it's paying them, trust me, they will jump on it.
So basically do your research.
Yeah, just understand the things to say to that person. You cannot go try and sell the wrong thing to the wrong person, but to sell the right thing to them. So as I am here, I'm waiting for people that can solve our problem.
And forgot about other projects. I think you did that. Yeah. So what was one project you've collaborated with that's made a huge difference in your brand? I know there are a lot you've done that have also impacted your brand, but what's the one that is this project did one or two for George Okoro? Or George Okoro Studios? Or George Okoro as a brand?
Yeah. Which one should I pinpoint now? Well, there's a lot. Everything is every single thing, to be honest, that I've put my hand on has helped us to where we are today. But the one that I would say, which one has stood out the most? I mean, like collaborating with a brand or even just working for a client.
Yes. Yes.
Because I'll give you a story. In 2014, it was not a collaboration brand, it was a wedding that I shot for a client. That was the wedding that changed my career completely. Because back then I did a lot of weddings. Now I don't do. Now I run away from weddings. So then 2014, I had an option to either shoot the wedding in Kaduna. My bride wanted me to shoot her wedding, or travel for my friend's wedding in London. A close friend of mine. But I chose to stay back to shoot that wedding because the bride and her sister, they insisted that if you don't shoot this wedding, this is your wedding, George, you must put it. So I'm like, do I even know that these people really want me to shoot the wedding? But let's find out if these people really appreciate this your rookie work. Why not, go to Kaduna and do the wedding? Now, the story is, when we arrived in Kaduna to shoot the wedding, there was the bride's first outfit, which wasn't really part of her main outfit. She came out with it. I saw it was a white lace. And I asked her that if we could take some pictures in this white lace before she comes out by me. And she said, no, this is not my main outfit. I said, no, you look really good in this white. Just give me the opportunity to take some shots before you go into change. So I managed to convince her. She agreed. We sat down, created some nice portraits. When she went into change, immediately, the excitement that comes with when you are doing something I really enjoyed. Okay, so while she was inside getting ready properly, I already put the media pad in the computer and did some small touch-up. Remember, like I said, I don't even know how to edit properly. So I just did the edit that I could do and shared that picture on social media before she came out past second look. But by the time we finished that event, it was a 3-day event. By the time we finished that event, I was getting phone calls from everywhere. I was getting messages. People wanted to feature the wedding. People changed their profile pictures then to the bride's pictures. So it was all over the place. And after that wedding, the pictures took over the entire northern wedding space. That was what everybody was talking about, because her outfits were brilliant, her makeup was amazing, her makeup was done by Mamsa Beauty. So it was such a big deal that after her wedding, I was literally doing weddings every other weekend, traveling across the country shooting weddings. So her wedding really changed the game. So it's one of that project that I can look back and say, imagine if I didn't do this project.
Yeah, what do you think made the difference about that particular event? Is it the swift releasing of the picture, or that first outfit that you shot? Was there like a particular thing that you say made the difference?
A lot of things. It's not a long picker. So first of all, time and chance. Some people do not recognize when there's an opportunity. I had an opportunity. I saw a very beautiful bride looking very good in an outfit. I didn't shy away from asking her, because I saw the opportunity and I said, please, can we do this? Even when she said she didn't want to, I pushed a little more because I just didn't want to miss out on the opportunity. Why would you have this outfit and not photograph it? I said, please, let's just take this one picture before you go in. And I remember clearly how, it was shot with natural light. I gave my assistant my reflector. I said, just bounce the sunlight for me in that white outfit. And then the way her makeup and the outfit was glowing, it was just amazing. And then another thing that contributed to it was her fashion was quite revolutionary then. The colors that she chose for another bride, she wore some bright green, she wore yellow, I think she wore red at some point. So it wasn't something that people really saw. And of course, that was when social media, Instagram started talking. So everything added up together for me, Also then, Bella Ninja has always been the biggest wedding duo, but there was more of what was going on in the South. But I also had the opportunity to give them wedding content from the North, and this wedding was also one of it. So when it also hit, Bella Ninja and all that, and of course, other Northern brides also wanted to be on Bella Ninja. So who can get us on Bella Ninja? Who can get us amazing pictures? So everything just added up for me then. So it's a lot of time and chance and recognizing an opportunity.
That's the key. Like recognizing the opportunity, because so these things, some of the time we come across like scenarios like this, but we don't recognize that we can leverage and you don't see it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the key point, like recognizing the opportunity and just running with it as fast as you did.
Yeah.
I think that's really it. Also, I think another thing you mentioned is you persisted, like you said, let's do this. And that's you being vocal about what you want, and how much has that really impacted your career? Because I'm not learning to be vocal. I mean, coming from a family of 7, the parents, and then I'm not even like the 4th child. There are like so many voices that I have to speak before I speak. Time it gets to me is maybe they've solved the problem. So I forget to speak. Do you get? So I'm more usually someone that is vocal about. I see it reflecting even my work. Sometimes I want to do something and I speak to the client. They're like, no. I'm just like, okay. Do you get? I'm not very comfortable to like push. Do you get? But now I'm learning it. So how much is that having to be vocal about the things you want, be it your brand, be it your work, be it yourself as a George Okoro? How much has that affected your brand?
So I am not the most vocal person. No, I'm not. I unless I am so convinced. Because if I'm convinced about something, I push. If I'm not entirely convinced, sometimes I just let it go, because I'll be like, this is how it was meant to be. You get? So I know some of our colleagues that are very about. They will push till they get it done. Especially now. In fact, before I can even try now, if I tell you and you say you're not, this is how you want it, I'm like, where will we flow? I'm a very chill person. I'm not. But like I said, that time I saw the opportunity. If I see an opportunity, so I know how, I understand what is value to somebody. Even when if I sit down with you and have a conversation, which I like to do, I like to understand people. I understand what is value to you, and I sell you what is value to you. I don't try to sell you something else. So I will not push for what I want if I don't think you really want it. That's how I operate. So if I see this person does not want this thing, I will not push. The day that you want it, you realize that you want it, and you come back and we'll have a conversation. I will not push.
So where does now meet with sales and marketing? Because I'm assuming sales and marketing is like you want to convince me to, patronize me as a brand or even buy my product. So how does that meet? Like,
no, sales is sales and marketing. Because if you sell some, have you ever worked for someone and then you don't feel satisfied?
Of course.
Exactly. If I sell you something that I know that I just pushed you to buy it because I want to put something in my pocket, it doesn't give me any satisfaction whatsoever. So it has to be, what does this person want? And I'll tailor it and package it for you. So at the end of the day, you are happy. You get value for the money that you paid me for whatever it is. Yeah. I understand the idea of sometimes people might not understand that they want something. So you try to push it to them. But there's something that is only experience that teaches you. When you experience it and understand that, okay, I think this person was right, you know, because if you can push it to them at the wrong time, and it will never really sit well with them. They realize this person made me to do. I just did this thing because this person asked me to do it. So I am not that person that will continue to push somebody against their will. I just try to understand what does this person want? What is it that is value to this person? And I sell that thing to you. And in the process, any other thing can happen.
Any other thing can happen. Another thing I would talk about is money. I feel like a lot of us have very bad relationship with money. It's almost like we're afraid to speak about money. If that money is root of all, if it doesn't even make it easier, it doesn't even make it easier in any way. So, and I used to be like that actually. At the time that I started photography, when you asked me how much do you charge, I'll disappear. Literally, I will disappear.
You hate to answer that question.
Yes, I hate to answer it so much until I start seeing money as a tool. The way I have my camera to be able to take pictures, I start seeing money as a tool to, do my work efficiently. So I want to know, like, if, say, I'm a young photographer and I've just started and I'm trying to place value on my work and how to communicate that value to my clients, what would your advice be?
So, almost every photographer, let me use that word almost, passes through this stage. Right? Also, how about do you charge? And then you freeze. You'll be like, how much am I going to say? Am I going to scare this person? Am I going to undervalue myself and all that? But the trick to it is not answering that question immediately. Yeah. Once they throw you that person, so how much is it? The last thing you want to do is saying, this is how much it costs. What you are supposed to be communicating is what you're delivering. That's where the conversation should be going. That's why at a certain level in your career, you don't just jump into taking a job. You go through some consultation process. You want to understand what does this person want, how big, what is the expectation, then before you say what you want to deliver. But at the beginning of your career, it's not nobody wants to sit down and have a consultation with you. But they will just ask you, say, oh, I want to do this. How much do you charge to cover wedding? Then you freeze. But like I said, the last thing you really want to do is to throw that price and say, oh, this is my rate for wedding. No, instead, you run them through what you're going to be delivering. And at the end of the conversation, that's when you now put the value to it. You understand? Because you find out that when you start to tell them, oh, this is what we're going to be doing, this is what we're doing, and then it opens up the conversation, and you'll not say, oh no, but I want this, I don't want that, I want this. So after all of that back and forth, even then they begin to have a sense of how much work you're going to be putting in, what you're going to be delivering. Because if you just go ahead and throw the price, they'll be like, especially for someone who has no experience in whatever they're coming to meet you for. A first time bride, maybe the first daughter in the family gets married for the first time. Even the parents have no idea how much it costs to shoot a wedding, for instance. And you just tell the person that, oh, it's going to cost you $3 million for me to shoot a wedding. They'll be like, what am I paying $3 million? How much is the hall? How much is the dress? How much is my shoe? But instead of jumping into that, why not engaging them in a conversation based on what you'll be delivering before you now mention how much to cost you to execute all of that? You get what I mean?
Yeah, okay, so let's bring you to the so my daughter is getting married and I come to you and I'm going, oh, super, my daughter is getting married on the 5th of February, 5th of December, and I'd really like to know how much you charge, because this is usually
so how much you charge?
How much do you charge for a wedding? How would that conversation go for you?
Yeah, so first of all, you have to express excitement. Okay, but then, oh my God, congratulations. So is this your first wedding in the family? Yet? So I'm expecting you to ask.
Oh yeah, this is our first wedding, and to be honest, we're all really excited about this wedding.
Have you fixed the date?
Yes, we're thinking of, because Easter is coming, so we're thinking about 19th of April, because during this time everybody's always around. So does that date for free?
19th of April.
Yes.
Oh my God, that means we don't even have time. We need to start getting into it. So what have you done? Have you booked the venue for the wedding? How many guests are you expecting?
Okay, I'm expecting by 500 guests, 500 to 800 guests.
Okay, so once you start to get a feel of the size of the people at the wedding, you now start to let them understand that the process of documenting a wedding of that size, what time are they getting ready, where are they going to be staying, the logistics that is involved. Do you want us to cover every single person at the wedding, which is almost impossible to photograph every single person at the wedding, but you get them to understand that, okay, do you have a planner that I can work with so that we can structure how we're going to document this wedding, because we have to start photograph the bride in the morning, or do you have plans for pre-wedding photo shoots, how many outfits, what am I talking to now? The mother of the bride. You're talking to the mother.
Yes.
So you have to shift that conversation to the bride, because the mother has to understand that the bride is the most important part, right? So, mommy, I need to engage the bride. I need to know what she wants. The groom is to be involved. So if we're shooting their pre-wedding, what do they like? How many outfits? Are we going to do albums? So our parents understand the language of album,
Yes.
and frame.
Yes.
They value album and frame more than everything. So how many albums would you like? Because they would like to have their own album.
Yes.
The couple need to have their own album. So you need to ask them. So, okay, so during the day of the wedding, would you like us to send the photographer to the groom's family? Because, we need to have a photographer with the bride and groom. You want one with your family when you're getting ready. So when you are saying all this, she begins to understand that you're not just growing up to come and do and go. So there's a lot of logistics, movement involved, team involved. So you're trying to see how many people do I need to add to my team. So you have to maybe that means I need to have at least, apart from myself, I need another 5-6 photographers to be part of the team, plus my light assistants. She'd be like, no, is it not just pictures? The conversation will continue to expand. You say, mommy, if you want us to execute like this is how it's going to work. If we don't do it like this, I might not be able to capture all these things that you want me to capture. Then, as the conversation is going, you find out that she's beginning to settle and she realizes that
This is not just
this thing is going to cost me.
Yes.
She will tell herself that this thing will cost me money. Then, at the end of all of that, if it's somebody you have a relationship with, you can now gently say, oh, mommy, typically, this will cost about this amount. If I'm going to do this, it costs me, let's say, 5 million naira. Or because it's we can have a conversation and see how we can meet and make sure that we deliver all these things. So, say, is that 5 million is too expensive. So you've put it up there. So she will be the one to say, 5 million is too expensive. Maybe typically you can execute that job for 2 million. But if you say 2 million, they are still going to tell you that 2 million is too expensive.
I agree.
So you have to start from that 5 million. So all this while, there's nothing like, let me send you my rate card immediately. You just forward. Once you forward that rate card to somebody who doesn't understand all these things that go on, it's different from when a planner who is experienced in the industry reaches out to you and says, IJ, send me your wedding package. You forward your wedding package to a planner. But when a mother reaches out to you and says, how much do you charge for wedding? You don't do that. You have to get her to understand that this is serious work that we're about to go into, to take a lot for me to deliver to your satisfaction, and it will come at this price. But I can do it for you based on our relationship at this other price. I'm sure you will be able to meet somewhere. And in a case where you begin to struggle with budget, you can now start taking out, okay, mommy, we don't have to do all the albums now. You can do one album now, do another one later after the wedding. We can reduce, instead of sending photographers everywhere, we can reduce the team to a team of 3 or 4. We can take this family pictures later on after church. So even they will start to consider with you, because if you take on that job with the first job description, you need a larger team. You end up spending everything that was paid to you to execute the job. But together, 2 of you will downsize the deliverables together and still come up with something that is reasonable.
And just take that in. because now, all I can hear in my head now is all those, I'll get back to you, this was a problem.
Yeah.
Because you throw the price at them and they're like, and then they just disappear. because they don't even understand the value that you're bringing to the table, and you don't also even know what their expectations are.
Yes.
So you just throw them red card at them, and sometimes the ones that can even afford it, at the end of the day, you realize that their expectation too is not even matching up with the thing that because sometimes they just read it, but they don't really understand.
How we do it. Nigerians, we've talked a lot about the wedding industry. So Nigerians spend a lot of money on weddings. But one of the most undervalued people at weddings are the photographers. And of course, everywhere there has to be media. So I'm talking photo video. But those are, in fact, if not the most important, because you are the one that is being freestyling with the rest of the life. But people will spend money on what they perceive as bad. If it's food that they think is bad, you'll spend all the money to make sure they cater to their guests, because they understand that people must eat. It's the same thing with drinks. People will spend millions of naira on drinks and pee the next second, and it's gone. But you will come in there, you start your work before the wedding, during the wedding, 3 months after the wedding, the photographer is still working, but you got the least paid. How many times have you arrived at the wedding and the first thing you photograph at the wedding, when you're photographing the details, the first thing you photograph is worth more than everything they paid you times 100.
When did they tell you how much those tissue they put on the thing they fold? How much cost there?
You start to ask yourself, why am I doing this to yourself? Yeah.
That's very true. Very, very true. We'll have to. Thank you. Thank you. That was very. Thank you. I think my next question, actually, so I have a quick question from the KGO decks.
Okay.
I've watched a few of the videos, and you mentioned how photographers can actually offer their skills and service to other, maybe like other photographers of studio to be able to build their portfolio as they go. So my question will now be, because sometimes you get a lot of these DMs, and then you get photographers like, oh, I want to come and work for you, or I want to go to like modifier for you, I want to do this and do that. But just like you've mentioned, you don't have need for that.
I mean, from 2019 to date, we've hired a lot of photographers.
Yes.
A lot have come and gone and have now built their own brands that are even competing with George Okoro Studios today.
Yes.
Which is one of the things that makes me the happiest. So, in the industry, majority of people want to do their own thing. They want to freelance, because they believe that it's not. It can work for some people, and for some people, it cannot work because it's a very short-term way of thinking. Because they don't have the experience, they don't have the knowledge to build anything, they don't have the discipline, they don't have the structure. But because they have the talent, they want to pick up the camera and go and take photos. But you find out that, like I said, it's a short-term thing. So it only serves you for a short time. And then when the pressure hits, you burst. Yeah, sometimes you disappear. Some people don't recover from it. Some talents are just gone. I've seen it, people that have done 20, 30 years in the industry will tell you that some people that I started with, and I don't even know where they are now. So why I keep saying that you can go work for another photography studio is because, I give you an example. The first doctors don't own hospitals. A lot of them don't. They work in hospitals, and they still end up being accomplished doctors, in a field. Same with engineers, same with every other profession. But in our profession, unless you have your own establishment, you don't even see yourself as accomplished. So it's not just the thing that's happening, it's a general thing, which I believe that at some point we are going to outgrow. Because if we really want to build something, if we want the industry to truly be respected, especially as photographers, we should have as in mega companies that are executing photography projects, and you don't even know who is. You cannot point and say this is the photographer. It's about that institution. It's just like what Studio 24 is to me. Studio 24 is arguably the biggest photo studio in Nigeria till tomorrow. Now, we have some of the best photographers in the world, but we've not really built anything that is, it's just about the individual. So for us here, we are aiming to build something that is It's not going to happen overnight because there's a mindset thing of, oh, the best photographers want to do their own thing. But if we can start thinking as a collective for the sake of the industry as a whole, you can come in and work in a photography studio for a good number of years, gain the necessary experience that it takes to change that your talent to something very meaningful. So after 7, you can now go ahead with what you've learned with your talent. You can now go and establish. But just because of your talent, you think you will establish, then you might just get it wrong. So if you come to us with the talent that you need, oh, this is a raw talent, this person is putting up and can solve this problem and can contribute to what we're building, we're very happy to hire you. I'll give you an example. We had a retoucher sometime, I think 3 years ago or so. I never met this person. I don't know what he looks like. The person was working in Hypnosis as a retoucher. But because the person was very good, first of all, they'll send me their portfolio, say, oh, this is what I do, I can retouch. We tried it out, we sent him a couple of jobs. We loved it. Sent him more, we loved it. After a week, we couldn't reach this person again. So he reached out, one way or the other and said, oh, he couldn't, his phone was bad. So that's why we couldn't reach him anymore. Now, because of how good that person is, the conversation for me was find out the phone this guy is using that went bad, replace that phone and send it to wherever this person is. I don't know who this person is, but I didn't want to lose that communication. So I bought the person a phone. We dispatched it to, I think it was the person in Joro or somewhere. And the person continued to retouch for us as a remote retoucher. And I know how much we were paying this person sometimes on a weekly basis because of how good they are. Now, when I mean what we're paying them on a weekly basis, some photographers will not earn it. You get what I mean? So why don't we have people who are good at retouching, building a business around retouching? There's a high demand. One of the biggest challenges photographers have is the time that they spend doing post-production, which is a disaster. And a lot of them don't want to let go of it. But you see, that's a huge gap where somebody can say, you know what, I want to build a retouching business. There are retouchers that do retouching as a business, retouch for people. But I'm saying beyond that, why does it have to be only you sitting down and you want to retouch for people across the globe? Why are you not building a full retouching center of 20, 50 retouchers, and your focus is retouching for people around the world, And it is, I don't know, it's such a huge gap. It's a huge problem. Like you said, you have that retouching problem. Mm-hmm. Trust me, 90% of photographers have a problem of post-production. Because I must do it on it's about sit down and how much time do you have? How are you going to build anything if all you do is shoot, sit down, touch, how are you going to see? By the time you get at the beginning, it's fun, it's interesting, it's so addictive, it's my work, you want to own it. But at some point, as you continue to grow, especially as you get older, let's say you start raising a family, things start to get complicated. You need to earn more and you need more time. How are you going to earn more and still have more time? You find out that you're putting more time, more pressure. There's no time for family. There's no time for real goals. You've not built anything. And by the time you hit a certain age, nobody's looking to hire you anymore. Trust me, you are not going to continue being that person that everybody's looking out for. So when it gets to that level, you find out that a lot of us, that's why I said photographers, creative, don't even have a retirement plan. So you spend all that years struggling to be the best photographer, the best retoucher. Then 20 years down the line, you look back, all you were doing is being the best photographer and retoucher. There's really nothing to show for it at the end of the year, apart from your beautiful portfolio. So that is a problem, and I describe it as a pandemic waiting to happen in the future, because the creative sector is the highest employment of youth today. So you can imagine the amount of youth that will end up without a retirement plan if we continue with this pattern. It's going to be a huge pandemic if we don't start to think differently. If we don't start to think like individuals, we start thinking as a collective.
I guess that also leads to the part where you inspire us to work smart,
Yeah.
and to talk to me about that, working smart in as a creative business. I mean, I guess you've highlighted that in the point of having to lose it in front of a system, trying to like edit pictures, like you can actually just outsource to a retoucher. So people,
Yes. Um, if you want to continue building in this industry as a photographer or as a creative in general, you must start thinking about other things that you can do around if you want to be stuck in the photography space or creative space. You have to start thinking about other things that you can do around this space, other problems that you can solve, whether for photographers or for their clients, that can help in increasing whatever revenue that you're generating as a creative. So that you can even sit down and say, oh, for the next 1 week, I want to go on a holiday. I'm not going to touch my computer. I'm not going to work. It's not every time your phone rings that you jump on it and say, I must go and do this job. We should be able to say, oh no, today I don't think I'm comfortable. I don't think you should be able to tell your clients that this pay will not be able to get me out of bed. Like without mising words, I said, oh no, sorry, I cannot get out of my bed for this amount. But you find out that people be like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Then you just gonna collect it. Instead of losing out on it, then you gonna collect it. If you continue like that, by the time you become Uncle George, you're hitting, 40, 50. Is that how you're going to continue to run your life as a creative? So we get carried away when we are in everybody's sleeps, when we are popping. Creatives get carried away completely because I'm booked, I'm busy every weekend. Being booked up, busy every weekend is not a flex.
and for your house.
It is zero flex. You are supposed to be, at the beginning of your career, it's a fantastic flex. Everybody's looking for me. But don't get carried away because it's not going to happen like that forever. A lot changes with time. And when it starts to change, if you look at the trend today, even in photography, a lot is changing and people are not even noticing. Have you noticed what the people that shoot with phones are doing today? And you notice where phone photography is going?
Great stuff.
Back in the day when we shoot weddings, you go to shoot a wedding, you're not competing with anybody. Today, in fact, some phone content creators earn more
Damn photographers.
than professional photographers in quotes. People who don't understand ISO shutter speed earn more than you. And in fact, they give them more time. How many times have you gone to shoot a wedding and when the bride is done, they say, oh, time for my content creator, my reel. They have, because they know that once this photographer is going to take 2 years to give me my images, this content creator is giving me my picture, I see the works. So there's more value there than you. And then you are still spending all your time on the system doing post-production. You have to start thinking of what is the next thing. Do you think 10 years ahead? Think 5 years ahead.
George, you're giving us so many assignments. You're giving us so many assignments. Yeah, so I'm just going to go to the community corner because from the last video, people were asking us, why did you give us the chance to give questions that we've had to ask this person and stuff. Just creating now the community corner.
Uncle George, Esther said, what do you think a client thinks about when searching for a photographer? What do they look out for?
So there are too many different clients. But clients look out for a photographer that can interpret what's in their head, photographer that understands them, and they feel they can bring their visions to life. And trust me, there's a thin line between thinking the photographer can do it, because people go and munch pictures from everywhere in the world and then show you. And if you're not careful, you might not be the right person to interpret that. That's why it's important as a photographer to always ask questions and engage before you decide if you even hop on a project or not. Have you ever asked the client, why do you think I'm the person to do this job?
Yeah. I have this client that came to me with a picture from Auntie Tiwa, So I asked her, why didn't you go to Auntie TY to take these pictures for you? Why do you think I can execute this picture for you? And she said she's not actually looking for me to record the pictures. She just thinks that I'm generally a creative person and I can give her something really creative. So I always ask my clients, like, why did you book me for this job? So that I can understand
Yes.
where you're coming from and what your expectations are exactly.
It's
and
always
if I can even serve you.
Yes.
Because the issue is that sometimes clients come with all these screenshots. You in your heart know that you can't actually deliver this. This is not your style. And then you take the job and that's where problem starts. So that's exactly. So it's even for me to also know if, like I told you, I choose my clients now.
Yeah.
If I can even deliver on this thing that you are asking me to do
Yeah.
for you. Henry said, what would be a client red flag?
There's so many red flags. My portfolio, my clientele is huge and it's beyond just individuals. I also work for a lot of corporate brands. But for individuals, my red flag would be, there are people that are very particular about their skin tone. I'm trying to be political here with my words, but the people when I see, I know that me and this person will not align in terms of because there's so many things that can affect skin tone in a photo shoot. The client might not understand that. So when I see that this person is big on trying to be like somebody else, they'll bring it and say, I want to be my skin like that. Once I start to get that vibe, I'm like, nah, this person is not for me. It's a huge red flag for me.
Yes, I think
I don't want to come and start explaining to you how the temperature in the room or the quality of the light or that's why it's affecting the color. I don't have that energy.
I learned that the hard way. I had this client that she sent me screenshots of the work she had. I think like 3 of them out of them were my images and 2 was another photographer. I closed my eyes for the other 2. I only saw the 3 that she sent to me that time. I was like, okay, cool. At least she knows my work and then she understands.
Yeah.
We finished this shoot and I sent her pictures. She said, this is the worst image she has ever seen. Literally. First of all,
heartbreaking.
Heartbreak hits me. But obviously, you have to compose yourself.
Of course.
I'd be like, can you explain to me what do you know like? Is it the lighting? Is it she said, did I not see the pictures she sent to me? I said, yes, I saw it. You sent me. She now sent me the 2 other pictures that I closed my eyes from to see. And then what she was looking at is like the color grade, like the way the final look picture of I told her that this is this photographer's signature.
Yeah.
Apart from the actual software processing, there are like elements that are there that are not in my studio that will enable me arrive here. And so
too much explanation.
And so I said, you know what? I can't even explain to you to understand. But what you should understand is that I cannot give you this thing.
I'm sorry.
So the best I can do for you is to refund you your money.
Yeah.
So that at least you not say that you get, because the next thing you hear is that I paid her so amount of money and she photographed rubbish. I don't want to hear my name outside with something that has to do with rubbish. So I just refunded. So these days, once you send me a screenshot, I take my time to break every image that is there. And I have to, what about this image do you like? What about this do you not like?
You have to ask these questions in today's world.
Yes. And once you start talking, I realize that what you're asking of me is not this not me. I can just tell you, as much as I would love to photograph you, I'm not the best person.
I'm not the right person for you at this time. Yes.
Yes. So, client red flag. Yeah, that is good. Mariam Zainab says, what's the most important skill one should learn as a creative entrepreneur?
The most important skill as a creative and entrepreneur together is, for me, is understanding the value that you bring to the table and what the client is expecting. So that's where you value meets, what you're exchanging. If you understand it, it's going to help you in terms of even satisfying your client. It's going to help you with valuing the work in terms of how much you're going to charge for it. It's going to also help you in terms of building the team around you, because you need to also pass this skill set to your team so they can represent you even when you're not there. You know, imagine sending out a team to go and do a job, and when they arrive there, because I always like to tell my team, when you arrive, when you're meeting a client for the first time, most of my photo shoots, I don't meet the client for the first time. I build relationship before getting there. But sometimes I will send your team. When you get there, you have to connect with the client. You have to understand them, understand the environment, what do they like. That's the only way they now open up to you. And if they don't open up to you, trust me, you just end up taking pictures and going. Every creative entrepreneur must know how to connect.
I agree. Important. Because I feel like taking pictures is like one of the most vulnerable things you have to do. And also, like night before, they're already overthinking it.
Of course.
So they're like, oh my God.
Especially if it's their first time.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't just show up with your bald head, they're meeting you for the first time. They're going to look at you like an alien.
Yes.
But you must learn how to
agree.
connect with them.
Another one is ask clients before you touch them.
Yes.
Always ask for permission.
Yes.
Always ask for permission. Because if you meet somebody like me that I don't like being touched, and then you touch me, first of all, you throw me off. Yes. When people touch me before without me knowing that they're going to touch me, it has a thing it does to me. I'm thrown off. So,
especially even in this culture, it's important. In this part of the country that where we are, where we photograph a lot of northerners, and in the northern culture, you cannot, if you're photographing a bride, you can't just be touching the bride anyhow. You understand? A northern bride is very what's the word?
I get what you
skip my word, but you cannot be.
There's a sacredness.
Yeah, you can't be touching somebody. In fact, you shouldn't be touching any bride anyhow. Yes. But if you must touch, you ask can I move you around? Can I do this? Can I? And when they give you a go ahead, you do it. But even with that go ahead, you have to still do it with sense.
Yes. I didn't get this person's name, but he said, what do you think about the statement, the customer is always right in today's world?
So the customer is king.
The customer is king.
But the customer is not always right. Yeah. Sometimes you have to put the customer in their place. That's why as a creative, as a photographer, cinematographer, whatever, it's important that you have contracts that protect you. Because if you open yourself up to be used, some clients will use you to the T. You know? Sometimes you should be able to call their bluff. As much as you respect that they're king, but if you have a contract that protects you, you tell them that I'm sorry, but this is not what this is. And when they insist, you tell them, go and do your worst, because you agreed to the terms of engagement. Yes. And we have to stick to the terms of engagement. Anything outside that, we have to sit down and have a conversation.
I think it even gets more annoying when you meet the ones that don't value the work you do. You know how I said photography is still not value
in this
the ones that still have that mindset of
it's just pictures.
So those are
the clients you should avoid with all your life.
With all your life.
And that's why you must build something that should give you that audacity to say to this person that I'm sorry, I can't do this.
I can't do this. Yes,
I'm sorry,
I agree.
I can't do this.
I agree. And then Yemi Sambo said, what should a creative do when their aligned business no longer matches their value? Okay, I guess maybe what he's trying to say, at the time that you said that there are some brands that you've collaborated before, but you had to
feel like you've outgrown it. Doesn't them. Align with what so that's the point where you understand that you have to pivot. You leave it. If it's not working for you, if it doesn't align with your interests at the time, you walk away.
Yes, I agree. I think that's literally just, there's really no cutting corners to it. Yes. Farouk Gariba said, actually, you mentioned this already. What revenue streams do you think are available to photographers and creatives? I guess maybe he's trying to say outside of photography or ways they can.
So there's so many ways. Even inside photography, there so many ways that you can add to what you're generating as a photographer. A lot of us in this part of the world, again, we limit ourselves to, let's say, wedding photography, studio portraiture, and we forget that the corporate world, media as a whole, is a huge market on its own. And in that space, even if you say, oh, I want to build my photography business around corporate events, weddings happen mostly every weekend. Corporate events happen every day. Every single day. If you go to all the meeting rooms in the top meeting centers, hotels, there are events going on, and there are photographers and there are media houses covering those events. Are you building your business around that? Or are you waiting, I want to for the next wedding? The wedding space, some might say is saturated, or it's difficult to break into that space because there are people who've already dominated. Why don't you look at this other space and say, this is where I want to, this is my niche, Because the wedding space is glamorized, so they also want to be part of that glamour.
Yes.
That's one thing that affects creatives. Is this one is the one everybody's talking about. Yes. I want Bella Nigeria to post me. At the end of the day, that is good, but is it Naira and Kobo? You're not making ends meet. So people need to stop focusing their energy only where it is glamorous and start thinking about, actually, there is work in corporate, there is work in focusing, okay, my gig is going to be, for example, I want to create video content for real estate, for example. There are a lot of real estate projects going on every day. And if you go to, and the funny thing is that they need this service. You can see that every organization today, forget real estate, understands now to an extent the importance of creating quality content, whether it's photo, video. But some of them don't even know how to go about it. You can see now every business, you see they have a department, they're looking for, you want to hire content. Great. But you and I know, even in the profession, you know how difficult it is to get somebody that is good. Mm-hmm. So if you know that you are good at doing this thing, why are you not approaching these businesses and saying, I can solve this, your content problem? You can bring a line up 50 businesses and approach them. Yes. You get 40 no's, you might get 5 maybes, get 3 yeses. And from that 3 years, you've started your business. Mm-hmm. But you have to be intentional about it.
You have to be intentional about it.
I've seen a lot of people start, how will I say it now? Something around content creation, and they just started a new kind of unique style to it, and you see them buzzing in the space. You start to ask yourself, but people have been shooting videos for 20 years, 100 years, but this guy just showed up, and now this guy is all over the place. You see it on social media all the time. Somebody just pops up. It's because they've identified that there is something they can do differently, and they do it well. And trust me, they might even start with doing a lot of pro bono collaborations to get their work out there.
Yes, because I always tell people it's as good as opening a shop and there's no product on the shelf. People have to see what you can do. And people also want to see the work you've done for other people.
So people trust you because you've done something for somebody that they trust, somebody they look up to. You know, when they say, okay. Yes. If this person can work with you, I work with you.
Because not a lot of people have disposable income now. So if they must spend their money, they have to know what they're spending it on. Yes. And I like what you said about corporate events happen every day. Because even weddings have seasons. Mm-hmm. Especially for now that we're now even in the north. Now it's Ramadan. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of all that.
Yeah, the northern weddings, of course, can happen during the Ramadan period.
But they're going to work. And
some of the Christians too are also fasting, the Lent.
Exactly.
So even though you still have weddings will start popping again by April to go up by April. But you cannot rely on that alone. Agree.
That's also some wisdom for me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I think this person will say, how do you measure success in your business?
So for me, success for me is beyond money in the bank, to be honest. Okay. Success for me is the people that I'm able to build in the industry, the people that I'm able to inspire to change the trajectory of their career. You know, I once had a phone call out of nowhere. A mother called me and said that her 11-year-old daughter said that she wants to be a photographer because of George Okoro. She's 11 years. Where did she see or hear about George Okoro? So those are the things that make me feel like, okay. Because when I started my career, I said, most important thing for me is to let people know that it is possible. And when I see that happening, I've seen photographers pass through me and they're now doing very well. So when I look at that, well, I'm okay. That's enough success.
Even for me to walk into this place today,
Yeah.
you fed my spirit. Because as
Exactly.
I've gone around, I'm like, yes, you
Exactly.
can do this.
It's just that to inspire people
Yes.
is success for me. Then they say,
Yes.
if this man can achieve
Yes.
this thing, that means it's possible. I'll go to
Yes.
bed happy.
Yes, love that. Final question will be, if you have to make one rule that every photographer or creative must follow, what will it be? Just
rule.
one rule you have to pass.
One rule.
Yes, whether you like it or not,
Yeah.
you must follow it.
Before you...
It said if you have to make one rule that every photographer or creative, let's even say photographer, must follow, what would that be? The one rule that you have, maybe it's something that you see people doing, like, why wouldn't they do this? Or I don't know. Just the one rule that you pass.
Okay, for me, one thing it's not just one thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of photographers today, quote me anywhere, don't understand the fundamentals of photography, digital photography. They just pick up their camera and they can take pictures.
And the
they can
mirrorless
shoot.
is not helping.
Yeah. So I want every photographer, because that's what makes us a professional photographer. Is when they ask you, what makes you a professional photographer? And you cannot even answer simple questions of tell me what you understand by the exposure triangle. So I would love for every photographer, be it shooting with camera or even our phones these days,
yes.
have the pro setting where you can adjust your shutter speed, ISO,
Yes.
and aperture. But people just pick up their camera and they do that, and then they're good. So that one rule is you must understand exposure triangle.
Also, I think you should have taken out the back LCD too. Yes, because I think it's a huge cheat code now.
Yeah?
Yes, because I was teaching somebody photography like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and because she could see what is happening as she's adjusting those buttons, she felt like she understood what I was talking.
Yeah.
Then I asked her something, and she was taking pictures. When I tell her to take something, nice, it looks really nice.
Yeah.
But I figured that when I asked her what to do, or maybe say, I'll be like, did you understand what happened when you moved your aperture? Or why do you think this picture got brighter?
Yeah.
She cannot really
They
explain.
don't understand.
Yes.
They just fiddle with the whatever they can touch, and
Yes.
then once the exposure is good, they continue to shoot.
Yes.
But you don't understand how you arrived at that.
Yes. So I turned off the back LCD and I told her to take a picture, and she couldn't do anything.
Yes.
So I figured that
they're
she
blind.
did.
You just
Yes.
become blind.
So I completely agree. I agree. Uncle, just thank you so much. Thank you so much
I
for sitting here with
appreciate
me.
the
I've
time.
learned so much. I've
Same
gained
here.
so much wisdom.
Me too.
So much wisdom, and thank you. I can't wait to come back and tell you the things I learned here and how much it has
Please.
impacted my life.
I'll be happy
Thank
to
you,
hear
thank
that.
you, thank you. So, guys, please watch out for KGO's decks. I'm always there getting nuggets of wisdom. So, please watch out for that. Thank you. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave comments for us in the comment section. Thank you very much.